Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Inga Cotton. I'm the founder and executive director of San Antonio Charter Moms. And today on the blog, we're featuring Anne Frank Inspire Academy. And because it's getting to be enrollment season. So, and they're going to, it feels so strange to talk about it, but we're already thinking ahead to the 2024-25 school year. So in order to make sure lots of people know about Anne Frank Inspire Academy, we updated the enrollment guide blog post. It's at sachartermoms.com. It's on top of the blog today. And we're going to have a Charter Moms Chats interview with the team. So Stephanie is waiting to connect, but we have with us Justin Johnston, and he is the assistant superintendent at Anne Frank Inspire Academy. So he's joining us from the Bandera Rd campus, and Stephanie will be joining us from the Northwest Military campus. So Justin, thanks for joining me on Charter Moms Chats.
Yeah, excited to be here. It's been a couple of months since I've gotten to sit in on one of these, and so it's great to come back and do it again.
Yeah. Well, so first off, I want to share a story. A few weeks ago, I was up at the Barnes & Noble up at 1604, and I saw a friend of mine. We hadn't seen each other for a couple of years, and she had moved. In the meantime, she had moved her kids to the Northwest Military campus, and she was just glowing about like how happy she said her son is, like a completely new kid, and he has so much more freedom. He gets to express himself, and yeah, I love hearing stories like that, and it makes me proud because it means like our resources are helping people to find great schools, but it helps me appreciate like that, you guys are doing really good work. You're creating a really unique environment, and it's helping kids to thrive.
Yeah, and Steph will talk more about that when she's able to jump on here in a second. But yeah, it's a testament to her and her team. They've done a great job of establishing a culture and really making people feel like what we say, where they belong and they find joy, right? And then the greatness comes. So.
Yeah. Well, can you talk more about that motto, the belong, find joy, and be great?
Yeah, so that is our imperatives. Those are things that, basically our commitment to families that we are going to do for their kids, right? Is we want for the kids and for the families to belong inside of that piece, right? Belonging comes from living life together. Belonging comes from connection. It does not come from easy, right? A lot of times it comes from struggles. But it's always amazing inside of those struggles. You're able to find joy. By connecting to people, by being living life together, you're able to build memories that you look back on fondly, and that's where the joy comes. And then greatness, right? Greatness is not that journey. It's the stages that we go through. And so you'll reach greatness multiple different times. But I always like to point out to people the difference between athletics. You watch a tennis player or a golf player win their highest awards, and they do so with a very small group, and it's a very short-lived celebration. You watch the Super Bowl or the NBA championship, and man, it's a party forever, right? And it's because of the connection that people did that they found by belonging to that bigger group. And so that's what we want for our students. And again, ultimately for our families is to find a place where they can belong and then live life together.
Yeah. Well, hey, Stephanie's joining us. Hello.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you. Yes.
Sorry about that. I was having some technical difficulties. My camera wasn't working, so I jumped on my phone.
That's okay.
Yeah, it's that fashionably late part of it, right?
Yes.
Well, I had these wires. I have these wires hanging off my ears because my AirPods have gone on strike. So we're gonna make it work.
We're all here.
That's right. Well, Stephanie, before you joined, I shared a story. I was at the bookstore the other day, and a friend of mine who I hadn't seen for a few years, and she had moved her kids to your campus, and she was just glowing about like just her son is a new kid. He can be himself. He's like happy to go to school. He's relaxed when he comes home from school, and like she's just so grateful for the environment that you're creating.
Thank you so much for sharing that. That's one of probably my favorite. I've heard it a couple of times since the school year started. Is my kid is so happy. And they love coming to school. They don't want to leave. And so, that's our desire to truly create that type of environment, as well as provide them that academic excellence side of things too. So thank you for sharing that. I really appreciate that.
Yeah. And then, so I hit Justin with the question about the belong, find joy, and be great. And he gave a good discussion of that, talking about, we have struggles, but then we're proud of what we accomplish. And I don't know, do you want to add on to that? Or my next question is about inquiry-based learning. And I still remember that workshop that y'all did last summer at the Charters Conference. So
yeah, he probably covered it, but the Belong, Find, Joy, Be Great, just creating that place where all students can belong, they can be themselves, they can find joy, when we do that through our experiences and making learning relevant to them. But also, we want them to be great. We want to, increase their capacity for greatness. We want them to see what makes them great, help them maybe find some things they didn't even know they were great at. And then, also building the competence side of things too, because some kids may have it right in there. They just need a little support to get what they know out and just to grow as a learner. But yeah, we do all of that through our inquiry-based learning. Yeah, we had a great time at the National Charter School Conference. That was a lot of fun, getting to speak to a lot of people and really share what we do here. And so the one way that we do that here and help our families know about that is we have a Siegel family night, our inquiry night, where we get to take our families through the inquiry process and really help them understand what it's like to be a part of an inquiry and go through those phases. Mr. Johnston, do you want to talk a little bit about how we describe the inquiry learning?
Yeah, I'll take that. A lot of times people they confuse inquiry and project-based learning. And the big difference between the two is with inquiry-based learning is we're going to take it back to relevance, right? And so in a project-based learning school, you do the project and the project ends. Well, the reason that you do projects is because it's a natural way of learning. Inquiry is a natural way of learning. It's a way that our brain is curious, right? And so, in fact, our brain is naturally curious, and inquiry is the way that we feed that desire for it to come through. You do that through some steps that we walk kids through, right? And so our job is to simulate that natural way of learning here at school. And that's where there's the similarities between inquiry and project-based. So we'll activate knowledge, we'll explore questions, right? We'll get kids to create. And then when they create, that's where project-based learning stops. They may go to that next step of sharing. And so what we do is we activate, we explore questions, right? Identify questions, then we explore, we create, we share. And then here comes the crucial part is we reflect. And that reflection is where the learning takes place. And once we reflect, now we have to go back and we have to recreate, because very seldom are there things that we do that work the very first time that we really master learning. I always come back to Inga and how much Charter Moms has grown over the years, right? And if she was to go back and watch the very first one of these that she did, how different it would be from where it is now. And it's because you recreated the process, right? And so you started before not using Streamline or StreamYard, right? And now all of a sudden it's like, hey, what can I do to make things better? And now here we are. And it's a seamless process. And that's the same thing we want for kids to understand too, is learning doesn't stop. Learning only stops when we fulfill that need of curiosity. But as long as we're curious, as long as we're trying to feel that desire, then we're going to recreate multiple different times. And so that's our inquiry process. And the difference, because I know that's one of the things that people ask is what makes you different? Well, what makes us different is we want for learning to be relevant. And we define relevance as urgency and agency. We all have agency. And again, Inga's my example for this chat because it's relevant to everybody here. But Inga has an agency of school choice, right? And so I'm going to jump on a political conversation. I'm fitting everything in on this one, Inga. I'm going to jump in on a political conversation right now, right? So you're fixing to hear talks about vouchers. Well, we're going to tell you that vouchers and school choice aren't the same thing. So public school choice is different than what vouchers are going to be proposed. And so Inga has a commitment and an agency for public school choice. And that is something that she advocates for. And there was an urgency because it became important to her family. And when it became important to her family, then it was like, well, how can I help other families achieve the same thing that I was able to achieve through school choice? And so that's the same thing we want for students. Is we want for what their agency, what wakes them up in the morning, be it that they care about people, be it that they want truth or honesty, if they want sustainability, what wakes them up and get them going. And then how can we tie that into an urgent situation that really drives their learning? And it allows for kids to uh, have ownership while also being guided and directed through our facilitators.
And one thing I want to add real quick is we also desire to create learning experiences for kids to anchor their learning too. So we are aware that not all of our kids come in with the same experiences. And so whether that may be a virtual field trip, or maybe that is, we just did a community day where our topic of inquiry is communities, and we're wrapping that up this week. And we had like a field day, but we had relevant questions to the inquiry topic, debrief questions after activities and during the rotations of the morning, and then after the entire day of, you know, the importance of community, the rewards and challenges and everything they had been discussing. And then they had now an experience to anchor that to what it was like to work with their school community. And so and it goes back to the relevance, is making learning relevant to them. And sometimes that means us creating something that is relevant, or drawing in that relevancy. And so those are always awesome days on campus. It was such a great day. One, because I feel like the kids don't even realize sometimes that they're learning more about community. Like they just had a blast. But when you go back and we had those conversations and hearing the discussions afterwards, being really impressed with the conversations they were having, that was already built off some of their learning, and then continue to push that through. So that's just another way inside of our inquiry-based model, is we give them learning experiences that are tied to those topics to really anchor their learning to and make it relevant inside of that. So yeah.
Well, I think what y'all are really talking about is really important, based on like the feedback, the observations that I make in our online community. So things like parents are concerned about like that the pandemic maybe made their kids feel disconnected from school. And so relevance helps build motivation, because then students see how it applies in their lives. And then I also hear from parents that they worry that if school is so structured and provides, so much, like, okay, kids, do this one next step, right? If the school or the teacher is always prompting, like, oh, just do this one little thing, then that's not preparing them for life. That the inquiry-based learning is much more like what real life is like, where like you look around and you try to find a problem you're passionate about solving, and then go out and solve it. And like, that's like, I never thought that I would start a nonprofit or do any of this. It's just that there was a problem that I felt really needed to be solved, and somehow or other I was going to find a way to try to make things better. And that I get to experience meaningful work every day of my life, and I'm so grateful for that. And I hope that the kids coming through the Anne Frank and the inquiry-based learning model, that they're also getting the preparation to have that kind of meaningful life.
Yeah, and that's just to oversimplify it, right? You just go back to infancy. And you look at infants, and they spend their early childhood doing what? Discovering, right? Getting into things, playing with things, messing with things. And then all of a sudden we think that there's supposed to be this certain age where learning is supposed to become serious and rigid and structured, and it's got to be this way, and you've got to do 4 hours of homework, or if you're not doing 4 hours of homework. But yet, where do kids really end up spending their time? It's about things that they're interested in. And I've never met a parent that isn't passionate about what their kids are passionate about. Like, they're always amazed about, right? They may say it with a little bit of frustration of, oh, they're on that video game again, or, oh, they're just watching those YouTube videos again. But think about what they're actually doing. They're actually exploring an interest that they have to a high level. And then what we try to do with education is say, hey, no, that's got to be what I decide you're going to go explore, when there needs to be some ownership in it, because it's natural. We're fixing to be heavily embarked upon by the scientific world because of the solar eclipses that are coming, right? Well, people aren't driving all over the country to come here simply because of the fact that it's going to be dark, right? Like they're curious and they want to know more and they want to experience it and they want to be a part of it. And like, man, if we can bring that into schools, well, now you're doing something that's worthwhile and you're doing something different.
And I want to add, Inga, you mentioned like, parents being concerned about, their well-being and, after going through the pandemic and things like that. And so we have something called student success meetings, and one thing that you will hear us say is we really want to focus on the whole child, not just one thing that they do, but we have student success meetings. And those are meetings we hold every 3 weeks, and we get together as a team. It's almost like an advocate team for each student that are in their kind of grade level or who they see frequently. And we bring in whoever we need to for that team for those students. And we look at 4 things. We look at their academics, their behavior, their attendance, and their connection. And all 4 of those things are important. And so if we see a kid that, is not really playing with anybody, maybe a little, withdrawn, let's figure out how we can get them connected to campus and can it feel connected at school and start to really develop that side of them. Or maybe there's a reason. And so we can address that, whether it's attendance or behavior, we can address those. And then academically, we're monitoring, where they are. Are those students that are struggling, need some interventions that we need to put in place? Are there those students who need some enrichment, who are feeling a little, need to be challenged more? And so those meetings allow us to really make sure that our students' needs are getting met. And then we communicate with families after we have those about what interventions we're putting in place and anything that we need to communicate with them after we have those meetings. And so that's been something that has been really beneficial to our campus this year, and making sure that we are seeing every kid, we're covering all of our bases, and we are making sure that they're able to be successful here at school in all of those areas. And sometimes it's a process, right? We've got to figure out what works for each kid. It's not a flip of the switch. You'll hear Mr. Johnston say, and all of us probably say now, but we got to trust the process. Learning is a process. And with the inquiry-based model and what Mr. Johnston has said, like, we want our students to be a part of the process. It's their learning journey. They should be a part of it. They should have some say in it versus just always kind of sitting and getting, right? We want them to discover and explore things and try new things, because we've seen a lot of interest from kids come out that they didn't even know that they were interested in just because it was provided. We have the Lego STEAM program here at Northwest, and we have kids who had never maybe even thought about coding, but now they're really good at it, and they've gone through the coding program and are wanting more. And I thinking to myself, I'm like, man, if I had that when I was younger, I might have, done something with that. I think the only thing I coded was my MySpace page. And so, it's cool to a lot of kids, but then they get to learn that there's actually problem solving behind it. And how do we get it to do this? And part of this, a big part of our inquiry model is those other characteristics or qualities that they learn, the problem solving, the analysis, looking at things differently. Those are all key components to learning, and it can be done in a variety of ways. And so I could talk about it all day long. Sorry, I get a little passionate over here.
Yeah, well, one of the things I hear from families, so like whenever I talk to people about ANFRAG, or there's a thread in the discussion group about it, like I always, and the ANFRAG parents, they always say, just go and visit, go take the tour, because you have to see it. And then sometimes people come back and they're like, okay, that was a little chaotic. Is everything okay? And then the parents who are like, no, that's like, trust the process. Like, this is how it's supposed to work.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that's one of those things that, like, at the end of the day, we are for everybody because of the fact that it's the natural way that the brain works. And so we are not an exclusive school. You don't have to be the perfect student to come to school here. You can come with problems. You can come with how you are to campus, because what we want to do is simply help you become the best you that you can become. However, if you are somebody that thinks that you have to be told what to do every second of every day. You have to be monitored of every second of every day. And I wish I could show y'all a clip of our kindergarten students. They come in, they get their breakfast in the morning, they sit down, they eat, they throw their trash away, and they go out to recess and they go play. Like it is, but they're 5 and they're managing themselves by the time we get to October, right? It's not first day. It's not something that they come in. First day, we got food on the floor. We got kids running. We got kids yelling. Like we have to teach what the expectations are, but they learn how to manage their behavior. They learn how to manage who they are. And so, yeah, there's going to be families that come in and they're not going to have had their experience that they thought that they were going to have at a school. Because, guys, we're not promising you to be like every other school. Here's what we promise you. We're not like the school you went to, right? And so if you're coming in wanting the same experience of the school that you went to, we're not it. But if you're wanting for your kid to make mistakes in middle school, elementary, and high school before they get to college, you want for them to learn how to manage their time. You want for them to learn how to manage themselves, right? We like to say it, reach self-mastery through self-management, right? If you want for your kid to learn the process of learning, understand how to reflect, be able to look back on things, then I don't think there's anybody that does it better. And what we do with that is we also know we haven't arrived. That greatness is stages for us too. And so we're hitting a point right now in complete transparency where it's time for us to take the next step. We've worked really hard over the last 3 to 4 years of getting stable, being sustainable, having plans in place. And now it's time for us to go again. And to learn is uncomfortable. And to reimagine education, right, which is what our organization is all about, means not doing something new and different all of the time, but it does mean being intentional. It means being purposeful, and we're going to keep driving in that direction to where we take that next step and we continue to improve. And so if you're wanting for us to say we're perfect, we're not, right? Like we're not going to turn around and if you're wanting for us to turn around and be accountable for mistakes, we will be. And if you're wanting to come and learn with us, then we would love to have you. We'd love to have your family, right? There's still some openings over at Northwest Military in our upper grades because it's a new campus. Both our kinder and first grade are full, but second, third, fourth grade, we have some spaces that are available inside of there. And then at the Bandera campus, the middle school campus has a couple of spaces that are available there as well. But we are at capacity for what we were originally designed to do, but we've also are doing everything we can to expand our doors, expand our walls, because we don't want to be exclusive in who we offer the opportunities for students to learn.
Yeah. Well, I want to backtrack just a little bit about like I think what you're talking about always trying to improve and having that humility. I think that's really important. And then, but I think like some of the proof in like how you guys are connecting with students is in like the projects that the big kids do. And I know I got to see some of this like a couple years ago. I got to visit at the Inspire Awards. But so I was wondering can you talk more about like I guess I'm not up to date though on like what I remember there were some sustainability projects and things like that. Like what are the big kids working on? Like what problems do they think are meaningful?
Yeah, and so what we've done now at the high school level is basically themed years. And so for freshman classes, it's about relationships. Well, why? Well, they're taking Algebra 1. What is math mostly about? It's about patterns and relationships. And so the more students understand about relationships, period. So that can be personal relationships. That could be relationships inside of cost and demand, right? Supply and demand. That could be relationships inside of positive, negative, cause and effect. But the more they understand about relationships, the more they understand that what happens on one side has to happen on the other side, which is a mathematical principle. For sophomores, we look at systems and organizations, which really ties into our biology, scientific process of that piece. In the 11th grade, our focus is on labor and management, because with U.S. history, right, most of history really comes back to labor and migration. I said management, I meant migration, labor and migration. And then ultimately, as a 12th grader, we want for you to be able to explain your thoughts, defend your thoughts. And so it's rhetoric based, right? And so it's about being able to understand both sides of a story, taking a stance and being able to really defend that stance. And so when we start talking about what do we want a kindergartner kid to do, we want them to be able to think for themselves and explain why they think what they think. And so that's where we're really trying to grow kids at the end of the day. And so that's how we base our inquiries. Now, inside of that, kids can go in a lot of different directions inside of those inquiries, because all we're trying to do is to strengthen those major concepts. And when we do that, content becomes relevant because of the fact that it's building around those strong understandings of those conceptual ideas.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, that's great. Thank you. So
middle school, let me say this real quick. I'm sorry, I'll mess on this. Middle school is geared around self-discovery. Middle school is geared around who am I? Who am I becoming? Like where am I? Why? Because it's age appropriate. And what do we know that middle school students, right? We always talk, and I have a 6th grader, and I will give this plug right now, right? I have a 6th grader, and he has a smile on his face, and he comes to school every day, and he's happy to come to school. And he's that way, not because he doesn't have the normal changes. He's that way because of the fact that he knows he's going to continue to learn why he feels the way that he feels. He's going to appreciate that his friends are going through mood swings, and that it's not personal, and that it's not geared towards every little thing is, I like you, I don't like you, right? And so it's a fun thing to watch them go through that self-discovery of who their families are, what their culture is, where they are, all the way through.
Yeah. Yeah.
One tiny thing, just to give an example, we're doing communities, and we're purposeful inside of elementary as well, tying, it's a little bit more content driven, but we did communities at the beginning because we're wanting to start building our school community. And so at the end of this inquiry, I met with one of our, a couple of our 5th graders today, and they created a video. And that was this inquiry project. They had a couple of different things they could have created a video with, but we taught them the skills of how to create a video, how to edit, and all of that. But she was like so excited to show me the project because they are working on different clubs. We're small at Northwest, and so we don't have a lot of after school clubs. And so the kids are starting to want to create those, and they know they can come to me with any idea, and we'll always talk about it, and we'll talk about next steps. And if it's doable, we're going to try to do it. And she showed us a video on, they were advertising for an art club that they created, and had a couple of different scenarios, but it was, the way that, students can start to connect and build community inside of campus. So there was a reason and purpose behind it, and they built it off of what they had learned about communities and the needs of communities. And then they developed this project based off of what they learned, not just a regurgitation of what they learned, but a new thing, a new idea or new learning based off of what they learned. So that's just a little picture of that. So I wanted to kind of give an example.
Yeah. Well, that's beautiful. Oh, one thing I wanted to touch on, because we featured it on the blog and in our group before, but it's the summer experience, which is also relates to community building. Because I know it's like, it started, like let's get all the kids together in the summer so they can start to build these friendships. So can y'all talk more about the Anne Frank summer experience?
Yeah, so summer experiences is something we started a couple of years ago, I think like 3 years ago now, if I remember correctly. And we've just kind of built, and again, we're trying to level up every year that we do it. One of the main reasons we do it is we really want to support those transition years. So that is a huge component of the spots that we offer, the number of spots, and the grades that are offered, because with our new kinder coming in, so any of our families who have new kindergartners coming into school, and then we open it up to the public, but new kindergartners coming in, and then 5th graders going into 6th grade as well, and then 9th graders that are, kids going into 9th grade. We want to make sure that they have a solid foundation. They're able to build community before the year starts. And it doesn't mean that everybody's going to be there, but it does start to create friendships and build bonds. They basically are building a school community, and it's Northwest and Bandera kids alike. Staff members from both campuses work. And so it just kind of connects our campuses. It connects our kids. And it's a time where we really lean into our core values. And we do different, they did this past summer, they did a different value of the day. The kids came up with different skits to demonstrate that, and really solidifying our culture. And then we walk into the school year and we already have a good group of kids that knows our culture, knows our values, and they're able to help us carry that on, even some of our kids who are new to us. And so it's a great time where kids get to build community. They also get some academics in there as well, some support throughout the summer. And then they also get to go on field trips. So they're getting those learning experiences to tie their learning to and have that background knowledge.
Yeah. And Inga, just because of the fact that my position has changed and I'm more into the central office political side, right? Like, families, please understand that experiences like that are important right now for you to talk to your legislators as we're going into a special session, because it's funding that allows for those things to happen. And so right now, without taking this time, funding is a big issue inside of public schools. So make sure that you're reaching out and helping that funding continue, because those experiences matter. You talk about where do students struggle the most? They struggle in transition years. And so that is 100% what we tried to do. And I want to commend people that were here prior that are no longer with us, that had those visions, that understood that's what kids needed, right? Because it's one of the things that we're extremely proud of is when you leave us, your footprint stays, right? And so summer experience was started by somebody that's not here anymore, but man, the impact that they're still having because kids are still going through that summer experience is appreciated. And that's the same thing. If you're a family that's been with us prior, thank you. You help us grow. You help us get better. You help us learn what worked. And so thank you for that too.
I'm going to piggyback on what Justin was saying. So there is probably a special session coming up where education will be the only topics that the legislature will continue. It might be in October, not exactly sure, but a good way to research like how to be an advocate for charter schools, especially if you are a charter school parent or you think you want to enroll your kids in charter schools, you want to know that the funds are there so that students can have a great experience and so that teachers can get paid a fair amount. Go to txcharterschools.org. That's the Texas Public Charter Schools Association. They have an advocacy page, and there's a way to sign up for updates. They even have a training fellowship to help parents become better advocates. And I know Denise from Anne Frank, she's gone through the advocacy training, and she's a very compelling speaker about why it's important for us to, not just take care of our own family, but to think about the community as a whole and how we can support innovation in education. Because that was one of the best parts of my job is learning about all these schools that have such unique models, and that's what makes school choice so exciting. Is that families maybe Anne Frank, you said y'all are welcoming to all families. It's not like you have to be this high to get in, but it's that but a family might come and be like, hey, this isn't my child's not self-directed enough. We're not comfortable here. We need more structure. But for the kids who need it, it's such a blessing that they can have their creativity. They can be themselves, and they're on the way to becoming the grown-ups that they're meant to be and to make the most difference in the world.
Yeah, and that's the biggest piece, right? And I think I've said this pretty much every time we've ever been on together, Inga, of we can't be for school choice and then say we're the only choice, right? We appreciate that there are alternatives to what we are trying to do, because at the end of the day, we believe that families should be able to make that choice. However, I want to be clear one more time. Vouchers and choice are not the same, and public choice are not the same things, right? And so don't get confused on those two things, because private schools can be exclusive. They can turn around and say, you're not X enough, right? And that is not what we are about. What we are about is, as a family, you should have input on how your kid is receiving their education. And you should have an open door to be able to have those conversations. And that's what we promise you here. Stephanie, April, any of our administration team, our facilitators, right? We're going to be open to a door for you to have a conversation with, to be able to make sure we're serving your family the best that we possibly can. You're not always going to like our answers. You're not always going to like what we give back, because we're going to be true to our vision, which is we're going to do things different, because we're going to do them with intentionality and purpose, and not just because that's what we've always done.
Mr. Johnston, I say this often because it's something you said when we were giving orientation to our new families a couple of years ago, and you said, we're not perfect, and you may not always like the decisions we make, but we will always listen. And that's who we are. I always tell parents, parents will come and, maybe share a concern or share an idea. And sometimes they'll be like, I'm sorry to bother you. Or I'm like, please don't ever apologize. You're advocating for your child, and that's your job. We want you. And that's why school choice is so important for families, because at the end of the day, we want what is best for kids. And so we will always listen. But it's so important to have that, because I think that, I try to make myself as accessible as possible, with limits, right? But that's important to us as an administrative team on both campuses, that connection with our families, because we want parents to know, like, we want what's best for kids, and we want you to be heard. Again, like, we're not perfect, but we will listen. So it's just part of kind of our culture here, making sure that we're here for parents, we're here for families, so that we can always continue to get better too.
Yeah. Well, I want to make sure that we cover like some of the nuts and bolts things, but also like if you could each talk about like the campus facility. You've kind of touched on parts of it. So like Stephanie, you mentioned that the y'all are a kind of a smaller campus, but can you talk about like what's unique? Like you guys are co-located with some pretty nice amenities.
Yeah, so we are attached to the Jewish Community Center here in San Antonio, and we have a great partnership with them. We have access to their gym and their fields, and we have this side of the building, which it looks very much like a school when you walk in. You kind of it's different. They're different sides, but there's a different entrance and everything. Our campus over at Northwest does look more traditional. Bandera looks very different. It was built with our model in mind. And so we take our model and adapt that. We take our space and adapt it as much as possible for our model. And we want to make sure that we're still offering the flexibility and autonomy for students, and options, quiet spaces, different things like that if they need to, take care of their needs and all of that. So we share that space. The amenities are nice. We have a good spot here, and it is smaller. We are K5 right now. And so, and then Bandera, was built with our model in mind. So it looks very different. It's open. There's a lot of common space. There's garage doors that clear garage doors that roll up, and different learning spaces that can be used for purposes. But in all spaces, you'll find flexible seating, movable furniture. One thing you've heard us say, and will continue to hear us say, is intentionality. Intentionality is behind everything that we do, and down to the furniture, right? We want to be able to move that stuff. If we do, we'll do that. If we want to do, if they need to be in groups, they can do that. And so we want to make sure that we are providing opportunities for students across the board, with autonomy and flexibility, but also utilizing our space to the best that we can.
Yeah. Justin, do you want to add about the Bandera? I know you can see behind you all the beautiful oak trees.
Yeah, and that's it has that San Antonio beauty to it of outdoor spaces, right? It's September 21st, so maybe next week we'll be outside. No, our kids are outside. Our kids are outside a lot. And again, giving kids the opportunity to work in spaces where they feel comfortable. I'm not stupid. If you put 450 kids in the same spot, you're going to have conflict, right? Conflict's not always bad. But I will tell you, we don't have a huge bullying issue. And part of the reason why is you don't have to sit next to the kid that you don't like. And you don't have to stay in the same space, right, all of the time. And so there's that ability to control. And most of the time when we have a bullying situation, what it is that it's two people that used to be friends that don't separate far enough from each other. And so that's that's a beauty of our campus, is that it gives you a college type atmosphere all the way down to the kinder experience, when the fact that we don't have hallways, we don't have bells, but we're able to scaffold that to the level that kids can handle. And we will grow them slowly to be able to manage themselves. But our high school concept is the same concept that is in our kinder space. And so that is the beauty of what we believe kids are capable of doing. And that is probably one of the things that I would advise parents the most is, you need to know we believe in your kid, and we believe that they are capable of managing themselves. And we are going to treat your kids like we would want our kids to be treated, which is with respect and with expectation that you learn on a daily basis.
Can I add real quick?
No.
No.
Maybe on the opposite apart. No, just kidding.
A lot of times we, and I say this, we do some things in education a lot for us as teachers to manage the room or whatever, or sitting for a long period of time. And I think back in just transparency, I come from teaching in a traditional setting, and I've taught in that setting, and I've also taught in our setting. I taught at our Bandera campus. I taught in the middle school, and then I moved over here. And my outlook and belief in what classrooms should look like has shifted. And I look back sometimes and I was like, why did I call his mom because he wouldn't sit down? If I would have just let him stand up and work because he was, you know what I'm saying? So like, I look at things now and I'm like, that would have bothered me, 10 years ago. But it doesn't anymore because they're on task, they're working, they're just standing. That's okay. And if they need to wiggle, we have wobble boards, and then it kind of gets their wiggles out, and then they're able to continue to do their work without feeling constrained or confined. And we tend to see less behavior issues once, they have to learn how to manage those space and flexible seating and all of that. Once we get through that, and that first initial process, they really start to kind of settle. Of course, we have, what every school has. There's arguments or this or that or accidents or things, whatever happens. But we have less of the, I would say we have a little bit less of those kind of things that come up because they're able to kind of move and they're not frustrated. And so providing the flexible seating, providing just choice for kids, just like we want to have school choice. We want kids to have some choice inside of what they do, has been really, I feel like, beneficial to their day in and day out during school.
Yeah, like you're conscious of the environment you want the school to feel, and that's reflected in the behavior of the students because there are expectations that you're giving them space, and they're learning that self-regulation.
Right. And then having those conversations when situations arise and talking through those things, and like really coaching our kids through those situations and tying them back to our values and making sure that we're exemplifying those things too, and then celebrating those who exemplify them too. So
yeah. Well, so I want to make sure that I hope that the families tuning into this are intrigued and curious. They want to, maybe they want to go down the giant slide at the Bandera campus, right? I've done it. It's fast. I'm just warning everybody. It's a fast slide. But no, really, like people, they need to go visit. But I want to make sure we cover like the like nuts and bolts stuff, and that people know how to contact you guys. So maybe, I guess, like Justin, we talk about the Bandera campus first.
Yeah, so you can reach out by phone. The best way to reach out to us though is through our website. So if you go to annfrankia.com, that is the best way. You can go on there and you can fill out an inquiry. Our principals will reach out to you. They'll set up a tour. We don't hide. So we set our tours up most of the time during the day while kids are on campus. So you can see what some people refer to as chaos that we refer to as life learning. Right. And I hate to even say that because it's not chaotic to the kids. If you talk to the kids, it's not chaotic to them at all. And that's the part of it that's important. And so go ahead, Steph.
I saw a parent on Charter Moms explain it in the way of, it's like an anthill. Everybody knows what they're doing, what they're supposed to be doing. If you look at it from above, it's like, what is happening? They're all crazy, but it's, everybody has a job. Everybody knows what they're supposed to do. And that's just a funny way to kind of say it, but it's true. It does look different than a traditional campus. You'll see, kiddos like managing themselves, going to get their water bottle, coming back right to where they were. They learn those things and those habits, but it is purposeful, right? And so we're just trying to instill those skills into them. But Mr. Johnston is correct.
So so go on there, reach out. It'll give you an option to pick which campus you would like to tour. And so if you want to tour both, just go ahead and pick one. And then the principal will help you go ahead and get in contact and get a tour set up at the other campus. And so, we encourage anybody that is interested in coming, right? And I know Steph and April will kill me for this, and anybody that just wants to see alternatives, right? And one of the things that we know is that opportunities to share our stories cause other people to think, and it causes them to be curious. And so if you just want to be inspired to think differently, come see us. All right. And we'll be more than happy to give you a tour. We'll be more than happy to spend time answering your questions, because again, you can't turn around and say, hey, I wish things would be different, and not be willing to do it different. And so what we always come back to is, guys, we're going to be different, and we got to be better. Because if we're not different, why are you going to come here? And if we're not going to give you something better, what is it? Now, better comes in a lot of different forms, and it comes down to families' needs. And that's your choice as a family to make that determination of whether or not it's your needs or not.
Yeah, well, that's a great offer, because there's a lot of when I started the group, our Facebook group, I kind of thought people would jump in, get their question answered, and jump out again, and I was fine with that. But what's happened is people stay because they want to keep sharing, like they love their school and they want to keep sharing, or like they love education and they love kids and they want to keep learning about what's happening in this education landscape. And you guys are something really unique in the education landscape in San Antonio. So I think that's a great offer that you're welcoming people to.
You see how I did that though? I offered Stephanie and April's time. Right?
We'll sign for tours. We'll give them a day.
Yeah, they'll make you pay for it, I'm sure. Yeah,
I'll get it back.
Yeah. Okay. So
thank you so much for the opportunity to share about our school. And, the school discovery days have been really beneficial. It's really neat to see families that end up coming to our school because they've been to a school discovery day. And so it has been, it's just been so great working with you guys. And I just appreciate the community. Community is a big deal for us too at Anne Frank, and you guys are a part of that school community for us. And so just thank you even for the opportunity to share about what we do with everyone so they can make the best choice for their kids.
Well, that means a lot to me. Yeah, we're looking forward to school discovery days. So our events start in October and then run through March. But so specifically open enrollment for you all. So I guess as Justin said, there's a few spots, middle school at Bandera and then upper elementary at Northwest Military. Mm-hmm. But for the folks planning ahead for the 2024-25 school year, November 1st is when y'all open the open enrollment application for that. And then they need to get the application in by January 18th so that they can get in the lottery, right? Yeah,
so we'll do our lottery in mid-January. We'll reach out to families, and then we'll go ahead and start asking people to come in. One of the challenges that charter schools face is there's some of you out there that get accepted to 4 or 5, and you tell all 4 or 5 that you're coming, right? And so we understand that. We live in that world, but that's why you keep seeing these dates get further and further back, because people want to know whether or not you're really coming or you're not coming, right? And so it's why it's in January now. So we know it's early, but we also know that if you're watching this right now, you're watching it for a reason. And be it us, right, or be it somebody else. We believe that there's a lot of charter schools in San Antonio that are doing great work, right? And then I want to be clear, we believe there's a lot of public ISDs in San Antonio that are doing great work. We are not counter anybody in education. We believe in public education. We want to celebrate public education. And Inga, I remember, I guess it's almost 5 years now, you showed up on a summer day with a big old sun hat, right? And you walked in and we had our first conversation. And I just want to thank you for the work you've done over the last 5 years. Your organization's been crucial to our success. And we really do appreciate the time, energy, and effort that you and Lori have put together. And thank y'all very much for that.
Well, I really appreciate that. Y'all are great partners because I feel like you understand that we're all in this together. It's all for the purpose of getting kids a great free education. And you don't see the other charter schools as like, oh, they're trying to steal our kids. It's like, no. We're all trying to educate all the kids that are out there. We're just trying to help the kids sort themselves into the right setting.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. I mean, and that's what we want to do no matter what. We just want to like take one step today, right, and make it better for tomorrow wherever you end up. And so if you ever hear of somebody from our organization saying something negative about somebody else, know that they probably haven't been with our organization very long, because it's not what we stand for. It's not what we're about.
Yeah, no, I haven't heard that. What I've heard is that you guys, you're going to do it your unique way, and you appreciate that there's other schools doing it their unique way.
Right.
And that I feel like there's just so much work to do just to make families aware that they have more of a choice, and that the kids don't have to be in that traditional education environment where everyone's doing what they're told. It's okay to be in the anthill, because even if there's no mastermind to the anthill, the ants all know what they're supposed to be doing, right?
Yeah. Can I give you some breaking news?
Oh yeah, sure.
Breaking news is on that map right there behind you. If you look up there really close to the Oklahoma area, there's a small town called Sherman that's not going to be small very long. It's growing fast, and we've been approved, and we just purchased land, and we just started the land purchase there. And so we're really excited about expansion that's coming of the replication of the Anne Frank model, and the work that's been done over the last 9 years, 10 years of getting it ready for that piece. And so we're excited about that. So there's, for somebody that's watched all 51 minutes or 52 minutes right now, right? Or there's your little breaking news. So we're excited about that piece.
That's really exciting. Well, I hope there's even though we don't have coverage in Sherman, Texas, there's no Sherman Charter Moms yet, but maybe they can Google around and find our post and understand the inquiry-based learning model and how that's now going to be available in Sherman, Texas. That's really exciting.
Yeah, so that'll happen in 2025. So we're excited about that. Yeah,
we got a viewer, Idali, congratulates on the expansion.
One of my favorites. Right there.
Well, that's great. Hey, we get to break some news today. That's great.
That's it.
Okay. Well, great. It's been wonderful talking with you all. I love getting updates, and keep me posted about what's happening on campus. And and I'll post in the group and see if maybe folks have some friends in Sherman who they'll be excited about this new option.
For sure.
So there'll be a lot more information coming that way. So.
Okay, sounds great. All right. Well, thanks, y'all. Have a great evening.
Thank you.
Right.
Okay.